is laying the foundation for victory. And that foundation is relationship. The foundation for our victory is established in our alone time with God. Now let me back this up with the word. Mark 1:35 says, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. I read this quote by Paul Bilheimer, and it said, the prayer closet is the arena which produces the overcomer. If you want to make this year your year, if your goal is to be successful, you must develop the discipline to set time aside every single day to enter into his presence. Every time we get alone with God, we get birth of something. Now I want to clear something up. I am not in any way, shape, or form talking about religion. I am talking about relationship. Religion cannot save you. Religion will not heal you. Religion will not liberate you. It never has and it never will. The only thing that will is a relationship. Worthy is the Lamb, and that's it. Your one-on-one relationship with God. Hear me now. Never buy your religion retail. Always buy it wholesale. Get it from the source. Go to God. Just because religious rituals have been accepted as truth does not make them true. The real power of God resides in a one-on-one relationship with him. That's it. I heard this powerful story about these monks who lived up in a monastery up on the mountain. And these monks would start praying before the sun rose and pray all day in silence until nightfall. Then one day this cat got on the grounds at the monastery. And like clockwork, as soon as the monks would begin to start their prayer time, the cat would begin to meow and cause a ruckus all day long. Finally, the chief monk said, we gotta do something about this. So they would take the cat every single morning before they started their prayer time, and they would tie it to a tree so that it wouldn't make noise and wouldn't disturb their prayer time. And it worked. Before they started, they would tie him up. He wouldn't make a sound the whole day, and at nightfall they would untie him, and life went on. Until one day, the chief monk passed away. Now his understudy took over, and they continued this cat tradition for years and years and years. Then one day, the cat died, and this threw the whole monastery in a loop. They didn't know what to do. How could they start their prayer time without first tying up the cat? So they called a council. All the wise monks got together, deciding on what they should do. And one of the monks said, why don't we just go out and find another cat, tie him to a tree, and then we continue our worship. Now this sounded like great wisdom to the council. So they all agreed upon it. They went out and bought a new cat, tied it to the tree, and began their prayer life again. See, that's rituals, not relationship. And that's a funny story, right? But how many of us are tying the cat to the tree every Sunday morning, going through the motions? Real worship cannot be accomplished with rituals. It can only be accomplished by spirit and truth. I read this interview where they sat down with this author who's very famous, sold millions of books. And they said, what's the first step you do in writing a book? His reply was powerful. He said, I write the last chapter of my book first. He said, this keeps my writing focused because I always know where I'm going to end up. See, there was so much wisdom in that. And I don't just mean for authors. This is the way we should live our life. As we start this new year, I want you to ask yourself this question. What do I want in life? Successful people live with intention. They intentionally structure and design their life in a way that will produce the type of life that they want to experience. There's a lot of you out there listening right now that say you want to be successful, but your life is not set up and structured in a way that's going to produce that. Now what I'm going to do with this message is I'm going to lay out the 5 steps for making this year your breakthrough year. It's time to stop just going through the motions and start really living. The biggest tragedy is to live a whole life and never have lived. Now it's time for you to start living life instead of having life live you. Now I understand some of you out there have been beat up, sucker punched, and knocked down on the mat of life. I get it. I know some of you are bruised, wounded, and shattered on the inside. I get it. Some of you have been contemplating giving up. And I know some of you listening right now have thought of suicide. But I'm here to tell you, you hearing this message is not by mistake. God loves you. If you read the biographies of the greats. All of them, every single one of them were products of the struggle. They went through real life just like you are going through right now, and they turned it around. See, that's what it's all about. I know you've been wounded. I know you hurt, and I know you're feeling pain. I get it. Up until now, your spiritual enemy has used your past, the pains and hurts and the things that you've gone through to enslave you, to keep you in bondage. Now, in order for you to break through this year, you're gonna have to reframe what happened to you in the past. And by reframing what held you in bondage, you can take the past and use it to thrust you to greatness. The word says, what the enemy meant for harm, God will make good. There's a powerful saying that says, there can be no testimony without first having a test. And that's what your whole life has been up until now, one great big test. Now God is gonna use your past, your test, as the foundation for victory, as for the foundation of greatness, the foundation for Him to glorify Himself through you. See, what we gotta do is help you reframe that. You gotta look at your past as boot camp, as training, as preparation, as college. You got your PhD from the school of hard knocks. From now on, when they ask you what's your major, you say, I majored in greatness. When you go in on that interview and they say, what's your name? You say, overcomer. When they say, describe yourself, you say, I'm a product of the struggle. When I was in school, my study, my area of focus was come from nothing economics. And in that class, they taught me how to not make excuses, to refuse to concede to any other outcome but that which I desire. Tell them you studied Abraham Lincoln in the Gettysburg Address, and you have been emancipated mentally, physically, and spiritually. And you tell them in history class, you studied Martin Luther King's speech that says, I have a dream. And that speech inspired you so much that you decided to dream too. And just like JFK said, we would land a man on the moon by the end of this decade. That you're an astronaut and you plan to land on the moon too. This is how you gotta frame your life from now on. Man, I see greatness in you. Now these 5 steps I'm gonna lay out for you today, you can use them to start out the year or just to start over in life. It doesn't matter, they apply at all times. Whenever you get lost, you come back to these steps, and these steps will put you back in order. My daddy used to say, whenever you get lost in life, son, go back to basics. Now the basics is the word. The basics is the truth. So we always start with that. Now what I want to do is start this year off with Jeremiah 29:11. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And by starting with the word, we are laying a solid foundation of truth to build this year upon, because truth is the couture for greatness.